Hi all, we're back for game 4. Me and my good friend Paul here. So there was a draw in game 3, Paul. Hi there. So
hi, another exciting game. This is one where Bogoljubov has the initiative, but ends up with 0 points again.
yeah, he had a very good position, it seems, at one point in this game. So after d4, d5, we see again the Slav defense.
Yep.
So
Again, the Moran variation.
Moran.
Yes.
So how is that distinguished from Moran? The early pawn triangle.
With e3.
This is Moran e3. All right. Okay. Is that a player, by the way, Moran? Is he a player, or what is that, Moran?
It's a place.
It's a place, right? Right. Do you know where?
Italy, is it?
Italy, right? Doesn't matter. Okay, sorry. Okay.
I'm not sure. It's named after Morano. I'm not entirely sure.
Right. Right. So bishop d3. We're going to get a very shocking move now, and
I mean, knight f3
is normal. Yeah.
is normal. Even now, it's normal.
Yeah.
Leading to a very mainline position.
So this move f4. Okay, it's got some sort of idea behind it that e5 might be a nice bind later, but it does block in the bishop a bit.
Well, it's a kind of stonewall, but
Yeah.
with the pawn on c4, it looks a bit loose.
Loose. It's better for the pawn to be on c3 to be able to cope with c5s and cds, be able to take. So the structure can be undermined here more easily, it seems. In fact, black takes on c4. Yeah.
The thing is, white can't keep the position closed
Yeah.
because of the pawn on c4.
Yeah. So now b5, and after bishop b7, also. You know, once black gets in c5 and cd later, it starts to look more fragile, this pawn structure. So knight f3 a6, and a4 is played now as if he hasn't played f4. He's like playing it as if f4 is kind of normal. So b4 was played here, undermining the knight.
It's a rather odd mixture of two plans, honestly, f4 and a4. I wouldn't play a4 in this position. I would just castle and get on with it.
So a4, strange. Okay, so b4, and he's losing a bit of central grip. The battle of the centre of these key squares. Pardon me. I think actually, you know, Bogo is showing, you know, greater central control now out of the opening here.
But the e4 square was already weak.
Yes. So that's, and this bad bishop behind these two pawns. So I mean, a lot of modern GMs wouldn't like to play like this. Basically, now this looks quite a loose thing. Okay, so a5 as well, as if some of the moves have been borrowed from game 2, a5 as well. But in this position, you know, is it really going to be a problem? Any knight coming to b6? Not really. This a5 pawn might be a bit loose. It's almost as if he's playing a bit routinely based on some of the ideas of game 2, but just with f4 put in as an experiment. It's
an uncomfortable combination of different ideas, honestly.
And now knight g3, and any sort of potential dynamism is taken away from white with this move g6, which doesn't, although it weakens the dark squares, if this bishop's hemmed in, it's not very easy to exploit these weakened dark squares. So maybe g6 is actually a lot more justified now, just to stop any f5s.
It certainly, yes.
Because otherwise, if white does get in f5, well, actually, there might be, I don't know, e5 would it be a pawn sack? F5 would undermine black's structure.
F5, then black can take on f3, then play e5.
Right. But even so, black wants to rule out f5 more simply, perhaps, by playing g6. So queen e2, and now c takes d4, and unless white wants a really horrible-looking structure with pawns on like here, he does take on d4 with a pawn.
Well, if he takes on d4 with the knight, then perhaps black can just simply play knight c5.
Yes, that's c5 square.
And if the bishop moves, then plonk a knight on e4.
Oh, this is looking a bit...
possibly the other one, I don't know.
Yeah, it's looking nasty. It's looking really bad.
We're reaching structures where white would quite like to play his pawn from f4 back to f2.
Yeah. Oh dear. Okay, that would be positionally painful. So e takes d4 also looks less than ideal for white.
And again, white would like to put his pawn back on f2. And then he'll have a normal IQP type position.
I take queen pawn, yeah. So now knight b8, that's a good rerouting, given that knight can't go to b6, so just coming to put pressure on d4.
I'm not sure it is actually.
Yeah? What else?
I would just put the f knight on d5.
On d5, this
and then
d5.
the other knight can come to f6.
Right, yes. Yes, that looks good as well, yes. Okay, yeah, so knight b8 was played here.
No, it's also possible. Certainly.
So he's coming to put a more direct, just instead of blockading, the idea is to put pressure on that d pawn instead of blockading it. So he's putting more pressure.
Interestingly, it was on prise, wasn't it?
Oh, there, yes.
After knight e5, it's
yes.
actually a sacrifice.
Yes, there is. Check. So bishop e3, and then he doesn't want to give Alexander this initiative. There's no need. So if say queen d5, then the rook can move, or bishop c4 even. He doesn't want to give the dynamism.
Yeah, there's possibilities. Bishop b6 square is available as well.
b6
so the queen can get chased around a bit.
So bishop c4 here, this might be quite unpleasant. Rook d1. Yeah, you're right. And if there, then bishop b6. Oh, there's bishop c5 there though. Okay, so it's not that easy, but he didn't want to go in for that.
I suspect Black probably can take it.
Let's do an engine check there, just out of interest. Is that Black's best move? Actually, it's not given. Maybe there's a real problem with it. So bishop e3. Apparently, it goes to equality now. Actually, bishop c4 say. f5 now, and it's unleashing some dynamism. And this diagonal is a bit weak. So say e takes f, then knight. This would justify the knight on f3. This line, smashing through on the f file. So white's starting to be better according to the engine here. So that would be a good initiative pawn sack to rest the initiative.
Well, white certainly gets some dynamic possibilities, and Bogo decided to keep the safe positional edge.
Yeah.
But I think that's probably a good idea.
Yeah, not to get into this.
Against Alekhine.
Yeah, fantastic. So if knight c6, it doesn't need to give white the activity. So knight takes c6, and he's keeping a firm blockade on the d pawn, and his bishop's still hemmed in. So he's still got positional trump cards.
And again, he should have d4 on prise.
Yes, I wonder what happens here now. Actually, we should turn off this engine to get a bigger board. Let's just briefly check this before turning off the engine here.
Doesn't look like very much to me.
Not much, yeah, black's better. Okay, let's turn that off. It's getting distracting now, just because d4's on. Okay, so bishop b7. He finally protects it now, though. Bishop e3, queen d6. Now the rook goes to d1. Okay.
But black has clear positional advantage here.
Yeah, the central control is in black's favour.
The d5 square, particularly in white's bishop on e3, is quite bad.
It's a bit miserable. This pawn is potentially weak as well on a5.
But a6 is also slightly weak.
Yeah.
White has two pieces on it.
Yes, this battery. So, okay, it's not totally clear cut. With b3 is also facilitating, if he needs, rook a1 and queen a2 if he needed to support a5.
What black would really like to do is swap off the bishop on b7 for the bishop on c4.
Yeah.
But he doesn't want to actually play bishop d5 and takes on c4.
Yeah.
Because then white would get a mobile pawn mass.
Oh yeah, it takes and then yeah, or either c5 or d5 at some point.
So black has actually no open files, because bishop d5 takes c4 is not a threat, so it's not easy for black to exploit his advantage.
Yeah. Okay. So bishop f8. Now rook d3. Interestingly. Okay.
Not entirely sure what that does.
So queen a2 now. Looks a bit passive, but he has to support the a pawn. So bishop d6. Okay. Bishop d2.
It's interesting, there are actually several weak pawns in both camps, a5, d4,
yes.
a6, b4, f4. All these pawns are slightly weak.
Yes. Yes, and there's not enough opportunity. And black goes on a similar theme of that game too now, this g2 theme. So it's protected now, bishop e1 protecting with the queen. Rook a d8. Okay, rook d2, now bishop e7. So the d pawn's being eyed again. And almost as if black's going to like double, he's tempted to double with his rooks, but actually he's got to get out of the way, I guess. This bishop's the rook's eye, he wants to get out of the way on that. So queen d6 first. Now knight e2, and now knight d5. And black looks really comfortable here. you know, potentially, you know, black's even getting bishop f6 in. Maybe you can put the bishop here on that diagonal. That'd be nice. Attacking the queen, surely. So queen c1, but actually the bishop goes to d8 now, just to attack a5. Now white doesn't defend a5 here. White plays bishop g3, offering a5, because if takes, then f5 would be dangerous.
I'm not sure how dangerous it is, but I think.
Check. Okay, so f5. I think intuitively this is dangerous. Let's check.
Alekhine is sacrificing pawns.
So queen goes back. Say takes
For activity.
Knight f4. Yeah, there's a bit of activity. You can get rid of that knight on d5 for a start.
White's quite active now.
And if he takes here, he's really asking for it. Black's, oh, there's bishop e6 from me. So the rook moves. Bishop e5, and yeah, he's got enough activity. He's got the bishops both eyeing down black's kingside.
Alekhine is continually happy to drop a pawn.
Yeah.
For play.
Yeah.
Which he hasn't got much of at the moment.
Yeah. So queen, rook a2, queen f6. This leads actually, this queen entry now leads to the exchange of queens actually quite soon.
But you can see Bogoljubov doesn't really actually have a clear-cut plan.
Yeah, he's keeping his blockade on d5, but something is about to go horribly wrong with his position. The queen exchange is fine if he can get the queen exchange, and his queen's back on the dangerous diagonal as this battery.
I mean, black wants the queens off.
Yeah.
Because then he has a better ending.
And in fact, this threat wasn't parried. It wasn't the king. Well, the king can't move out of the way. There's actually now a threat of queen e3 check, getting the queens off. But also, of course, there's a threat of moving the knight now to attack the rook, and threaten also queen g2 mate. So bishop d3 allows the queen check to get the queens off. So this is starting to be a bit better again for black. And he plays rook c8, but when I was telling Paul, we did a brief review of this game, that in this position Bogo is content just to keep a firm grip on d5 by playing rook cd8, and I just wonder if that's the right plan now. I wonder if just putting more pressure on c4, then trying to lift, you know, c4 later with knight f6 and bishop d5 would have been a better plan. Because white's only entry point into black's position is with the c file, if he can get hold of the c file, which happens actually in the game. Benefit of hindsight.
The problem is bishop on c4 is actually quite a good piece. It's blocking the c file. It's hitting a6.
Yes.
And if black tries to swap it off, white will get a mobile pawn mass.
Yeah. And now white is able to do something on the c file, though, build up pressure on that c file with rook c1. And black seems a bit complacent about the c file possibilities.
But it doesn't look like a problem though, because white's got no entry points.
Yeah, c7 looks distant away and nice blockade. And in fact, it's, you know, you can see a sort of similar pattern echoing from game 2, that black is trying to play actively again with his pawns on the king side, but there's a much firmer justification for more aggressive play because he's got no problem pieces. So he plays f5, and of course there's no radical punishment here for f5. It seems like a logical follow-up to first restrain f4 to be able to undermine it later, and maybe use the g file even later, because you've got a beautiful bishop tension on the diagonal. But after rook dc2, white is starting to have latent, you know, pressure, well, on the c file. And there's a very surprising twist. So it seems black's plan is based on playing this g5, which ordinarily would look quite good, wouldn't it, this g5 plan?
It looks natural, but should be prepared, I think. With bishop f6 maybe.
But really, in this position, you can't say that black has any problem pieces. I suppose bishop f6 would slightly improve the bishop. But he was tempted for g5.
And if white takes, then black can swing a rook to h8.
it would start to look really nasty, yeah, if it takes, or even, I don't know, bishop. I suppose that's much weaker. Bishop g5, yeah.
I would take with the pawn.
Yeah, take the pawn. Yeah, and then g4. You could underline these light squares.
The white's king could even end up in some trouble.
Yeah. So really, this is where Alexander starts playing. He plays a very energetic move here,
and I'm sure he was ready for this.
Yeah. I wonder if you guys can guess it on YouTube. I'll give you 10 seconds. What would you play here? So you don't want to sit and wait to die here. What would you play to try and energize your position? So 10 seconds starting from now. Okay, Alexander's played g4.
It's not a winning move by any means.
It's not winning, but it's a great move for practical reasons.
It mixes things up, and Bogoljubov is not able to handle it.
It's strange, and it's amazing to collapse, considering the quality of his position that he had. So he collapses tactically now. So knight takes f4. He's losing that beautiful knight on d5 for a start. I think that was a clear blunder actually. I think better was taking here, allowing f5. I think that might have been better.
And know what happens after that? Perhaps after g4
yes.
takes an f5. No, going back to the position. F takes g4, f5.
Yes.
This is where the C file comes into operation. For example, how do you defend e6? Well, say you take.
Yes.
Then bishop takes, and now the rook's only got one square,
and
rook c7 comes in.
Very dangerous all of a sudden. If the knight takes, then we've got two bishops in pre. You're right, and it's really nasty that the king is being exposed on this second row here, in conjunction with that seemingly theoretical C file from earlier. Is actually getting a very practical entry point now. That c7 square in this variation. So this g4 really does put a spanner in the works. So knight takes f4.
Maybe something like rook f8 would be stronger. Just defending the f pawn.
Well, engines like here after g4. Still better for black. Rook f8. Yeah, that's the engine move actually, just to hold up f5. It seems he wasn't interested in holding up f5 here, which maybe is the key thing to actually do here. Because now after takes, he's lost his nice knight, and he's letting white win, you know, f5, basically, to play this e5.
And I think this is a mistake. I think maybe bishop d5 is stronger.
And also, this bishop, which wasn't doing anything earlier, has all of a sudden got access to this diagonal. And you know that was all made possible from black doing the running. If you think about it, look at this diagonal. You wouldn't have thought that white's going to be able to use this diagonal here. It's unthinkable in this position, wouldn't you say? So g4 is actually liberating this bishop as well for this diagonal.
This is why Alekhine was a great player.
He could get out of these terrible looking positions.
He saw these possibilities.
Yeah. So this rook e1. See, we've now got quite a decent bishop all of a sudden on f2. Now, even totally disastrous, and you wouldn't think it's totally disastrous, but black's best chance apparently is to now sacrifice the exchange. But no, he didn't. Let's look at the game continuation. White's play. Can you guys guess it on YouTube? So 10 seconds starting from now. A really good move, which actually gives white the advantage now.
I think it just wins, actually.
It just wins. It just completely wins. It's amazing. So 10 seconds starting from now. Rook takes e7 check.
I suspect what he may be hoping the bishop takes d4, which doesn't work.
Right.
Instead, bishop takes d4.
Oh yes, the king could just move and leaving both bishops there, or maybe just bishop f6.
No, bishop takes d4. You take it.
Oh sorry, maybe just the king would move.
Rook takes d4.
Yeah.
Takes king f6. Takes on b7. Takes on d3.
And it's okay for black, yeah.
Black is better.
Yeah, black's better. So this is a really horrible exchange sacrifice to deal with now after in what happened. E takes d4. Rook takes e7.
I suspect Bogo missed it completely.
Yeah, bishop h4, because that diagonal was unthinkable before that it was going to be used by white. Now the problem is this entry point c7. If the rook moves off, then rook c7 is going to pick up the bishop. Check. Horrible. Disaster. So he supports...
The other problem, of course, is that f6, winning a whole rook, is threatened.
Winning a whole rook, yeah, f6.
So black is not only going to lose the exchange back,
yes,
he's actually going to lose more material.
Yeah, so if he supports the rook, then f6 check. Actually, here, f6 check, then take.
Yes, and if he plays the other rook to d7, then bishop takes d8, rook takes d8, rook c7, wins a piece.
Yes, horrible turnaround. Really horrible from a brilliant position black had to be put into this.
So I think king f7 is best, but it loses.
Yeah, terrible disaster. And now this cheeky f pawn plays a check to try and deflect the king away from the rook. The f pawn's actually winning the game now, because after the check he just plays f7, leaving his rook, because he's going to queen the pawn. Horrible. So he queens the pawn. It's all over, really. Of course, shouting.
And this is the pawn that a few moves ago moved from g3 to g4. It is that pawn, isn't it?
Yeah. So bishop d3, and the game, black resigned. So it was, from a stylistic point of view, it didn't start off that stylish from Alexander, to be fair, but amazing resources found in the position. I suppose you could say white hijacked black's pawn moves. Could you say that? Because black was doing the running to try and undermine white on the king side. White kind of hijacked the pawn moves to improve the scope, in particular, of this bishop, which is given this innocent kind of look, especially when white's playing a move like g3 soon. You'd think, where that bishop's nothing, it's no big deal, you can forget, you can go to sleep about this bishop. You'd switch off if you saw g3, wouldn't you, as black? You wouldn't think the bishop's going to be lethal later on f2.
You have to be careful.
So he plays f5 to play for g5.
Now what was interesting here is what move does white queen on? Can you scroll up a bit?
White queen's on...
No, can you scroll up the...
the score sheet, yeah.
It's interesting because in this position you wouldn't really think that pawn on g3 is going to queen in 11 moves time.
Amazing. Or this piece, these two pieces are really celebrated, this pawn and this bishop, aren't they? It's really amazing what happens to them, the transformation. So this pawn's going to queen and this bishop's going to skewer. So they're set for great things in their career in this game. So g4, and the pawn takes on f5, and now we have the bishop skewering, and also at the same point, of course, stopping any rook e1 checks. Quite a nasty bishop. And the rook's perfectly brilliant on the c file, waiting for that entry point c7 to be used. And then the f pawn finishes off the operation. What a turnaround game this was. So this was game 4. Hope you enjoyed it. Comments or questions on YouTube? Any other comments from you, Paul?
I think this is quite interesting. I think in both games Bogoljubov has been positionally equal to Alekhine, but he's just been out-thought and out-tacticked.
Yeah.
Alekhine has just shown more dynamism, but he hasn't shown himself to be positionally stronger in either of the two games. He's just seen more complex lines and understood the position deeper.
Yeah.
But neither time he's got anything out of the opening with white.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. He was on the verge of some diagonal, pressure being exploited, it seemed. Okay. Comments or questions on YouTube? If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, it's free and you'll be notified of any new videos. The King's Crusher channel. Thanks very much.